Hello mi gente and welcome back to Nata Knows Best. In today's episode, we're making the famous steak sandwich. Not that one, and tampoco ese. I'm talking about the Puerto Rican Jibarito sandwich. I love this steak sandwich because of its Caribbean flair. Instead of the standard bread buns, this steak sandwich comes with fried green plantains, brushed with a little bit of garlic butter. This Jibarito sandwich is so delicious. As far as toppings go, they're pretty straightforward, but this definitely packs a punch. So let's get into it. To make our Jibarito sandwich, we're going to start off with one of the main ingredients, which are the green plantains. Now remember, our green plantains are going to serve as our bread buns. So we're going to go ahead and peel these and cut these into 4 quarters. You want to cut off your tips so you have a stable base to cut them in half. So technically this is going to be one sandwich, the bottom bun and your top bun. Do the same to the other side. Now that I finished slicing up our green plantains, I'm gonna go ahead and heat up our oil and also start marinating our meats. The meat that I chose for our Jibarito is pretty much a thin sliced meat. You can use skirt steak or flank steak, whichever you like. And I'm going to marinate our steak with some of my favorite seasonings. You see them all the time. It's usually my adobo and my sazon. I will link those seasonings in a comment below so you guys can purchase them yourselves if you're having a hard time finding them in your local supermarkets. So our oil is nice and hot, so I'm gonna start with our 2-step process to fry our plantains. The first round of frying is really just to cook our plantains and get them a little soft and also give them a slight bit of color. The second round of frying is really meant for them to crisp up. So let's start with the first round. You want to make sure that you fry your plantains about 3 minutes on each side until they get a nice light golden color. I just took off our plantains from the heat. I let them rest for about a few minutes, and we're going to start with part 2 of the preparation. So here we have our plantains, and I'm going to cover them with parchment paper or some plastic wrap to place on top of our plantains because we're going to smash these babies. And with an extra cutting board, you want to place it on top. And like I said, we're going to smash our top board onto our bottom board to get our plantains nice and thin. I definitely recommend putting some muscle into it. Maybe put your back into it. If you're having a hard time smashing your plantains, don't even worry about it. Put in all your aggression. Just beat the hell out of them. You gotta remember that these plantains are going to serve as your bread buns. So you want these to be a nice thinness so they're not too thick and they don't overpower your steak. Like anyone knows, when it comes to a good sandwich, you want your bread or your bun to have a nice amount of surface area. I'm pretty happy with the thinness of my green plantains, so I'm gonna start on part 2 of the frying process. I have my oil heating up all over again, and I'm just gonna fry these babies up until they get nice and crispy. Now let's go ahead and fry up our marinated steak. So while we have our steaks cooking up in the background, I'm gonna go ahead and make one of the classic Puerto Rican condiments, also known as MayoKetchup, which is pretty much mayo and ketchup together. However, for this sandwich, I'm gonna mix it up a bit, and I'm going to mix mayo with ketchup, along with some mustard and a dash of worcestershire sauce. Let's go ahead and start assembling. So we have our buns. We're gonna go ahead and top them with our sauce. This is our MayoKetchup. All nice and juicy. Most people like to serve their jibarito a little differently. I know some people that add some American cheese. Personally, I'm not a big fan of American cheese, so I definitely recommend using some pepper jack cheese, or if you want a really good melt, maybe some munester. Add your spinach or your lettuce, whichever you like. Add your slices of tomato. And last but not least, we're going to add our tops. But we're not done yet. We gotta spice this up. So we're going to add our garlic butter spread. Let's go ahead and try this baby out. Just, come on now. Just look at this jibarito. We already know it's gonna be good. Wow. This jibarito steak sandwich is beyond good. This is probably the best sandwich out there when it comes to steak sandwiches. The flavor of the steak is top notch. That sauce that I made, the fried plantains, just all of it together is 100% that steak sandwich with that Caribbean flair that everyone loves. If you like this recipe, go ahead and subscribe right now. Give me a like. I'm going to add this recipe to my Nata Knows Boricua playlist. This is a playlist filled of Puerto Rican recipes that are tried and true and so delicious. So definitely check that out. Stay tuned for next week for another delicious recipe. And as always, mi gente, thank you so much for watching Nata Knows Best.